Hi everyone, today's lesson is going to be about frappé. Frappé means to strike. If you ever get a frappuccino at Starbucks, there's a frappé setting on the blender, and that means that the blades are beating and striking up the ice or whatever you put in the blender. Some of my students like to think of frappé as striking a match, just Now there's something I have to note before I start demonstrating it. There are a bunch of different ways to do frappés, depending on which method or which technique you use. Everybody does frappé a little differently. I was trained in the Vaganova method. We do not actually strike the floor in frappé, and most other techniques do strike the floor, and I'll explain why we don't later. Essentially, frappé, whether you strike, whether you don't strike, whether you flex your foot or whether you don't flex your foot, the goal is the same. The goal is to help prepare you for your jumps later. So the easiest way to get familiar with frappé, especially if you're a beginner, is to practice with a flexed foot. This gets you in the habit of using your heel forward, whether you're going to the front or to the back. When you get more advanced, you can wrap the foot, but wrapping the foot actually gets pretty confusing unless you're advanced. So for now, keep it flexed. When you do a frappé to the front, your heel touches your ankle bone. In fact, I have a hole in my leg warmer right where my ankle bone is. So when you do a frappé from the front, you touch your heel to your ankle bone. And if you're striking the floor, your toes only, not the whole foot, your toes strike the floor and then you continue going out. And if you watched my TENDU tutorial, your frappé should finish long and lengthened and straight with super pointed toes, turned out, lifted kneecaps. All those same little rules that we learned in TENDU apply everywhere else. So they apply in your frappé too. When you do a frappé to the side, if you're starting from the front, same thing. Heel touches your ankle bone, just your toes, and then straighten. Super straight TENDU, lifted kneecap. Heel slightly forward. If you're going from the back, when it's flexed, it's a little easy. You just put your heel in back. And remember how we talked about in TENDU, your toes start the movement and your heel is down? Same thing. Your toes are kind of running away from you. Your toes are in back and your heel is forward. So just because you're flexed doesn't mean you can sickle or do this. All right? It's the opposite of that. Toes away from you. Toes always go back. Heel always goes forward, whether you're doing a TENDU, a dégagé, a fondue, a frappé. So to the back, heel, and your toes run away from you. Strike the floor and straighten. Straighten and hide your heel. Don't turn in. Don't let it bend. So a good frappé, whether you strike or don't strike, is something that prepares you later when you're doing petit allegro and even some of the middle jumps too. You get used to hitting the floor and then sending it out. So this helps you when you do glissade, jeté, or a glissade, assemblée. This movement of sending it out, even from a little position, helps you in your jumps. Now this is where I was trained different. In the Vaganova method, we don't think it makes sense to drop the level of the leg. We focus on working from the knee. So we don't want to lower the knee or lower the level of the leg. So when we do frappé, we don't strike the floor. It just goes out from wherever your knee is. But even though I'm not striking, it's still the same. It's still practicing a sharp movement, and that will help you in your jumps. If you're in the center and you want to do a little jeté, it doesn't make sense to do jeté, drop the leg, then jeté again. So we tend to not strike the floor. Whether or not you're striking the floor, the goal is to keep the knee to the side. Imagine that somebody is grabbing onto your knee and kind of locked it in place. Your knee is going to move a little bit when you change your leg, but that doesn't mean you turn in. Okay? So if I'm standing at the bar just like this, and you're the mirror, I'm looking to you the whole time, I always want to see my kneecap. Even if I'm going to the front, I need to see my kneecap. Side, kneecap. Back, kneecap. If at any point you don't see your whole kneecap, that means you're turning in. You also want to hide your heel. Hide your heel. If you can see your heel, probably means you're turning in. If you can see your heel, probably means you're turning in. If you can see your heel back here, definitely means you're turning in. So now we're going to talk about wrapping the foot. If you're comfortable with flexing, okay, this is no problem, okay, this is no problem. When you go to the side and you do them over and over again, you change, you go front to back to front to back. If you're comfortable with that, and if you're comfortable with going to the back, and you're ready to do something a little more advanced, now you can wrap your foot. So, the heel is the same. The only difference is that instead of flexing, you're pointing. But in ballet, our toes always have to point back. Remember, like in TENDU, heel is always forward, toes are always back. So we have to do the same thing in Frappé too. So Frappé, heel forward, toes back. And you actually do wrap your foot around your ankle. This can be hard if you don't have a lot of flexibility in the front of your ankle. It can also be hard if you're not used to really pointing your toes back here and giving yourself a little foot cramp. So unless you have a really good, strong TENDU, this is going to feel awkward. So wrap, you can strike front, or wrap, don't strike. Keep the level of your knee. Wrap, to the side, strike, and if you're coming from the back, heel is still forward, toes are still back, but you're touching the back of your calf right now. It's not really the ankle bone like it is on this side. It's got to be a little higher because you can't do this to touch your ankle bone. So if you're going from the back, heel is still forward, toes are still away. You can either strike or you cannot strike and keep the level of the knee. A quick, easy little exercise to give yourself, whether you're doing flexed foot or a pointed foot, just practice going to the front 3 times. 1, 2, 3. Or you could do with pointed. 1, 2, 3. To the side, 3. 1, 2, 3. Or if you're flexing it, look, you're going front, back, front. If you're doing it to the back, 3. 1, 2, 3. Or flexed. 1, 2, 3. Strike or no strike. Your teacher may want you to do it a different way. I was taught no strike, and I tend to keep my foot pointed most of the time. So now do it a little faster and just do 1 in each direction. When you do 1 in each direction, that's called en croix. Croix means cross. In ballet, we follow the cross. We can only go front, or side, or back. Yeah, so give yourself 1 in each direction. Do frappé en croix. Front, side, back, side. Front, side, back, side. Now what happens when we add double frappé? A lot of people get very antsy or anxious about double frappé, but it's really not a big deal. Think of double frappé as adding 1 extra beat, but it can't be the same side or the same direction that you're going. So if I want to do a frappé to the front, but I want 1 extra beat, I can't beat front twice. So the only logical explanation by method of deduction is we have to go back, front, front. Because we can't go front, front twice. So if your combination starts with a double frappé, you can guess that you have to do back, front, front. From there, if you're going to the side, you do front, back, side. Now, if you want to do a double frappé to the back, you can't go back, back twice. So look, you just go front, back, strike back. So sometimes I have my students actually say over and over, back, front, strike, front. Front, back, strike, side. Front, back, strike, back. Back, front, strike, side. If you say it, it does help. Back, front, front. Front, back, side. Front, back, back. Back, front, side. And when I say front, that actually means wrap. You wrap even when you go to the front. I do see some people do it from here. I really don't know if that's correct or incorrect. Maybe there's a method that does it like that, but I was always taught if you're going to the front, you're wrapping. So if you're a beginner and you're still struggling with frappé, start with a flexed foot. When you're going front, heel touches your ankle bone, keep your knee turned out, so you should never have to turn in to do anything, okay? Knee stays out, always see your kneecap in the mirror. Whether you strike or don't strike, that's up to you, that's up to your teacher. So you go front, back to the ankle. Side, back to your calf. Back, come back to your calf. Side, come back to your ankle. You always have to come back. This, or if you're pointing your foot, this or this is home. You can't do frappés out here without coming back. The whole point is to send it away from this little position. The whole point is to have here, out. Okay, so don't just do frappés out here somewhere without coming back. This is home. Another thing I want to talk about, when you start wrapping your foot, and let's say you're doing double frappés, or let's say you're starting to do petit battement, this movement, whether in petit battement or double frappé, is really more of like a side-to-side motion. A lot of people have this habit of going, around back, around front, around back. It's not like that at all. It's more just side-to-side, just from the knee down, just out, in, out, in. Think of it more as side-to-side, flat, almost as if you're doing tendus or dégagés in first. Or when you do tendus or dégagés in fifth. You don't go like this to do a dégagé, do you? If you're just going side to side, you don't draw a big circle. So it's the same thing in frappés, whether you're doing a double frappé or petit battement. It's just side to side. So don't make any big circles. That's where you can lose your speed. That's where a lot of students slow down, because they're thinking, back, side, front, oh my God, what am I doing? And they're making all these big circles, and it's really just a tiny movement. So close. You shouldn't go too far away from your leg if you're beating, whether you're doing a petit battement or a double frappé. Petit battement is something that even I still struggle with. I know I struggle with it because I have trouble keeping this butt cheek really tight. But if you're having trouble with the feet part of petit battement, I definitely recommend practicing petit battement flexed and just going out, in, out, in, out, in, and do this fast. It should just feel like a little side to side. Don't scoop. It's not down, up, down, up, down, up. And it's not circles. Little tiny movement. Just your heel is going ee, 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 ee. Imagine it's just the knee down moving. So side to side. Little, 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 little. And squeeze this butt cheek up here when you're doing it. So don't let your thigh wobble. Okay? Check your kneecap in the mirror. Pretend somebody's grabbing it and holding it in place, and do petit battement. And then eventually, wrap, keep the same feeling, petit battement, little side to side, not out and around. So just to recap, frappés prepare you for jumps. It's about getting speed, it's about sending your leg away from a small position, usually in fifth position. Frappés can be done with a flexed foot or a wrapped and pointed foot. Frappés can strike, or frappés cannot strike. Again, this is something you need to figure out what works for you. Pay attention to when you're doing small jumps in the center. Sometimes thinking of striking or thinking of not striking can help you achieve your jump. Everybody is different. It also depends on what your teacher wants you to focus on. Sometimes your teacher can see you doing things that you're not even aware of. So your teacher might say, strike the floor, or don't strike the floor, or flex your foot, or point your foot. Your teacher gives it to you a certain way for a reason, because they're trying to prepare you for jumps in the way they think you can do it the best. Whether it's specific to your body's needs, or because it's specific to the technique and the method that you're trained in. So for frappés, if you're a beginner, practice with flex foot. If you're a little more advanced and you're comfortable with using your heel and changing in all the different directions, then you can try wrapping. So remember, frappé is just like tendu, it's just like any other movement anywhere else. Your heel is forward, toes are back. Even though tendu is slow, the end feeling has to be the same, super stretched. Only difference is sharp, the sharpness of it, to help prepare you for your jumps later.